This afternoon is the first time I've felt actively uneasy and unsafe to the point of arming myself while walking my dog. Some people out there just give off really bad vibes or strange energy, is all I have to say. I decided to walk my dog along a somewhat secluded in parts coastal path between my town and the next one over. Starting on the path, you're walking alongside a housing estate to one side and the railroad line and sea to the other. Then the housing estate turns into fields followed by a steep wooded incline. We passed a guy going the opposite direction to us, who returned my smile with a glare. Fine, fair enough. Not everyone wants to be friendly, but this guy seemed off. The dog and I reached a little pebble beach where I stopped to take some photos of the sun setting before turning back the way we came to head home. After a few minutes of walking, we passed the same guy again, and I don't even acknowledge him this time. What's strange is that between where we first saw him and the Pebble Beach, there's nothing else worth stopping for, which means there's no reason to get so far down the path to only double back. A few meters after passing him, I glanced over my shoulder and he stopped, doing something on his phone, but it sounds like he's on a loudspeaker to an automated voice. Another few meters, and I check again, but he's now following us, which doesn't sit right with me, as this is a pretty secluded part of the path, more so than where we first saw him. At this point, I got my keys out of my pocket and spread them between my fingers so the pointy bits were sticking out of my fist and upped my pace. I also took the dog's lead out and clipped it together. He stayed behind us, disappearing behind a corner every now and then, but always there until, thankfully, we got closer to civilization where he just vanished. Makes me wonder if he gave up because he missed his opportunity to do something much, much worse than light stalking. On my way home, I kept looking over my shoulders every few meters just to make sure I wasn't being followed to my front door. I even thought of going another way just to be sure, but fortunately, I linked up with a friend that accompanied me the rest of the way. To this day, I don't walk my dog down that path anymore. Dear weird guy who followed me and my dog on a secluded path, let's not meet. I'm not entirely sure if this story is deemed as that severe compared to any others, but it was enough to scare the hell out of me. It was a short encounter, and it happened only a few hours ago. I had just gotten off the bus at approximately 6 p.m. It's already dark at this point. It begins to get dark around 4 p.m. There's two ways that I could take to get home, and I wanted to go down the quicker path to be able to get there as soon as possible. It was freezing cold and the day was exhausting. It's a path that has trees surrounding it with a small field on one side and barely any lights out there. But it allows me to get home within a few minutes from the bus stop, so why not? I'm nearing towards the middle end of the path where finally some illumination can be seen. Then I hear someone walking behind me and murmuring something. I assumed whoever it was just talking on the phone, but no. he was calling out to me. And at this point, I start to get pretty alert and speed up a little bit. I can hear him getting closer to me, and soon enough, he's tapping me on my shoulder. He's right next to me, and even though I did try to speed up again, he'd always catch me. "Do you smoke?" was his first question. I simply answered no, just barely muttering the word because my anxiety is already at a high. He then starts to call me babe and proceeds to make sexual comments, which I'd rather not say, as they were really uncomfortable. Being called babe is something I dislike in general, but hearing it from some creepy dude I don't even know made it worse, along with every other thing that he said. Oh, I'm 17, by the way. He seemed to be somewhere in his 20s. It made me feel gross. I didn't say anything. I wasn't really able to get any words out, and I'm not sure if I was overreacting, but it genuinely terrified me. He kept walking right beside me up until I reached the end of the path, to which he turned back around. At least I think he did. I didn't see him going anywhere on the street where the houses were. I don't even know where he came from either. Before entering onto the path, I always have a tendency to look around just in case. And there was no one there. There was no one in front of me or towards the sides when I was walking through the path, unless I just didn't notice due to it being very dark. Either way, it scares me to think about how long he was actually following behind me. It triggered a panic attack by the time I reached my house, and, well, I can't help but think about what the hell could have happened if he approached me at some other point, or if he wanted more than just a smoke. Anyways, please, let's not meet again. I wasn't sure about sharing this story. It still gives me shivers every time I remember what happened. This happened in the Amazon, in the border between Brazil and Peru. The jungle was an amazing place for me to live and an incredible place for my parents to work. We lived in a village specifically for the researchers and their families. I had a big group of friends of different ages that made life even more special. The only horrible part of the Amazon is the existence of terrorist groups that try to control the region. I was 7 when this happened. Every kid in the village knew we had the freedom to go anywhere we wanted, as long as it was not close to the terrorists. We were instructed that we could never leave the village at night as well. My parents taught me since I was very little how to hide in case something happens and to run if I see things get dangerous. I remember all the adults of the village were celebrating something. I think it was a Amazonian party like Halloween. I remember my mother painting her face in a tribal way. And all of the children went together to a house to stay safe and have fun. The eldest girl was in charge. She was 17, and as soon as our parents left, she ignored us and left for her friends. Our group consisted of 6 children, of which I was one of the youngest, and we all listened to the most adventurous one, Leon, who was 14. Whatever Leon said, we followed, because he was fun, always making challenges, and he knew how to take care of us. Yes, despite him being reckless, He was our friend. We loved him and knew he would never abandon us if something happened. After playing soccer and eating, the six of us became bored. Carla, one of the six, had the idea to dress up like our parents did, with tribal makeup and dresses. We agreed, and soon we were all dressed up like the kids who lived in the village of the deepest regions of the Amazon. I remember us playing around until Leon said, and I quote, "Let's explore the Amazon and find a hidden treasure." We all cheered and agreed to leave. It was easy to escape since the girl who was supposed to take care of us left. Leon managed to find a lantern and a boat big enough for us six, and we decided to set sail. It was around midnight, but we didn't care. Just imagine 6 kids dressed up on a boat, splashing water everywhere and trying to find an imaginary treasure. No phones, no adults, just the jungle and us. It was life at its purest. Everything seemed to be perfect until we heard people calling, "Who's there?" And then we saw a lighted boat approaching. Quickly, Leon dropped the lantern and instructed us to lay down on the boat's floor and stay very, very still. It was one of the scariest moments of my life. I remember clearly, how we all had our bellies to the floor, grabbing each other's hands and not even daring to breathe. But it was too late. "Stop hiding. I see you," a voice said as the guy illuminated our boat. We stood up and I saw 4 men with guns, and I'm not talking about small pistols, pointing at us. They laughed and said, "They're just a bunch of kids." Leon put himself in front of us all and said that we were in a hurry because our parents were expecting us home. The biggest guy, who had a red bandana, laughed again and said, "Little kids should not be here alone at night. You could disappear here in the jungle and no one would ever find you." At this point, I was super scared and Carla started crying. "You can go. You're just tribe babies after all." And they left. I remember all of us hugging each other, crying and sailing off as fast as we could. Once we got home, we entered the house and closed all the doors and windows. We all slept together on the floor that night. But before we dozed off, we agreed not to tell this to anyone in the village, not the elders or our parents. Even now, no one knows what happened that night. Years later, I came to understand why they let us go. They thought we were kids from the local tribe, which meant we had no value to them. If they had known that we were dressed up and were from the village, I wouldn't be here typing this story right now.